Hello, my name's Michael Conneely, and this video celebrates the fact that Jupiter turns direct on July the 10th. Now, Jupiter essentially is the energy that gives us purpose and meaning and expansion in our lives. So while Jupiter was retrograde, all those things were reduced and held back for us. Things were put on hold. Now I'm recording this on the day before Jupiter turns direct, but I can feel the new energy coming, and I felt it last night, and that was because Jupiter was going backwards, and then stationing over the last 24 hours, because he's then going to turn direct. And such inspiration has come through to me in this last 24 hours, preparing me for Jupiter to go direct. Hope can flood in. Jupiter's cheerfulness and expansion can flood in. Now you need to check, obviously, well, what house Jupiter is transiting through in your Vedic chart especially, to work out what area of your life is particularly earmarked for Jupiter's effect to most greatly manifest. So for example, if it's in your 4th house, say you're a Cancer ascendant in Vedic astrology, then it's the house of home, and basically projects that have been held up in the home will now start moving again. There'll be more hope in the home. But you know, if Jupiter, for example, is transiting your 10th house of career, then obviously the hope and expansion will come through in career. And of course, it's not totally simple. Life often isn't, because there are a lot of planets retrograde in July. And indeed, see my Astrology and Healing newsletter for July to see the list of those planets and the dates. And of course there are 2 eclipses in July. But remember, if you understand your Jupiter, it may be that the undamming that occurs for the eclipses will be helped. Eclipses undam stuck energy, and if you can contact Jupiter, the planetary energy, and Jupiter in your chart, then the optimism and expansiveness can help what the eclipse of the 13th or 27th of July will be undamming, and indeed including that the eclipse of the 11th of August, which is part of the same cycle. So basically, for the nature of Jupiter, see my YouTube and blog on the nature of planet Jupiter. I've got a YouTube and blog on the nature of each of the planets. And if you're, for example, on one of my courses, there's also a journey that goes with it. Because the thing is, each planet has its pure and divine nature, but we experience each planet through filters of sign, house and aspect. And so the way we experience a planet can be totally different from the divine nature. And so if you're on one of my astrology courses, I offer journey videos so that we can perceive the divine nature of each planet, and also the way each planet manifests in our life. And then of course it's important to go on to use that awareness to heal the way a planet manifests in our life, and thus empower ourselves, and thus more likely achieve the special spark we incarnated to achieve this lifetime. Because the divine nature of Jupiter is, for example, summed up in the great Vedic god Brihaspati. And where would we be without sense of purpose, without inspiration, without wisdom, without optimism, without expansion? And in a divine way, those qualities manifest and are personified by the divine Jupiter, in Vedic astrology, Brihaspati. And indeed, the Vedic astrology offers quite sophisticated additional ways of understanding how any planet manifests in your chart. I'm not saying Vedic astrology is the be-all and end-all. I always combine it with Western astrology, which gives invaluable psychodynamic insight, which we need. And things like subpersonalities and unfoldment of our psychological self, and indeed Western evolutionary astrology, the purpose of our soul expressed psychologically. And Vedic astrology includes Chiron, the wounded healer, and the great gods of change, Uranus, Neptune and Pluto. But Vedic astrology has some magnificent extensions for understanding how a planet will manifest in your life. There's the Ashtaka Varga score. So for example, if your Jupiter has high level of Ashtaka Varga points, he will manifest strongly in your life. And that is such a blessing, but you need to be careful of the downsides. Can you handle it? For example, if you have a weak sun, you might easily lose confidence. Or you might not be able to underpin the divine expansion which Lord Jupiter brings you. Just as a sort of tiny example. If Jupiter is in Capricorn in your chart, i.e. fallen, you might be quite pessimistic and do yourself down. All these issues, and of course I'm not saying them. I am not saying them in a fated way. My whole astrology is geared to healing and empowerment. And then there's essential technical issues to know, like for example, is your Jupiter in the Gandanta zone, those weak immaterial zones where water signs transition into fire signs. There's the magnificent Varga charts. Vedic astrology has Varga charts or divisional charts, each of which says something so special about a particular area of our life. And I do, a wonderfully supported Varga course. You can study your divisional charts by going on my Varga course in my Advanced Vedic Astrology website, Advanced Vedic Astrology Courses website, where you study your Vargas and my Vargas, and so the communication between us is necessarily authentic and caring and accurate, because it's our lives we're talking about. And then, so important is how do your planets treat each other. In my Master Vedic Astrology course, that's my Foundation Vedic Astrology course, I teach Avashtas, the standing of each planet, and how do your planets treat each other. Because, for example, sometimes one planet can support each other wonderfully, but other times a planet can trash another planet in your chart. This statement needs to be heard for the perception it offers. And then it gives you a defined chance to heal that destiny. And of course I talk about these sort of things in my astrology readings. My readings website is starwheelastrology.com. So basically Vedic astrology can lead to magnificent perception. I would say my combination of Western and Vedic astrology offers such magnificent perception. But if it's just formula, it's almost useless. You need to use it for healing and empowerment. And as an example of that, and very much Jupiter-orientated example, you can have a future life progression reading. So my wife Maggie Pashley does future life progression readings. Now these are a branch of hypnotherapy. And so, I mean, to summarise very, very, very simply, you imagine a scene in the future and another scene a bit on in the future. Now, I did one of these last night as Jupiter was stationing, preparing to turn direct. And I realised how our lives can be blighted because we can have scripts which assume our lives will be struggle. We are no good, we will fail, we are on a downward path. And of course so often these scripts are put in our minds and our hearts and in our consciousness by our families. But also of course our society and our job can instill false and negative scripts. So you have a future life progression reading, and I was amazed at the two scenes that came to me from my future life. And this is an example of how these can give purpose and hope. And more than that, you can, for example, strategize, you can plan for, you can create the possibility of those scenes that under the hypnosis of future life progression you saw. And so, future life progression can give you hope, expansiveness, direction, purpose, strategy, the possibility of planning. And even when difficult situations are seen, well, you can start to sort of understand the meaning of those. It might, for example, that be a difficult situation occurs which ends a way of life for you that was wrong and that you shouldn't be in, just for one example. Secondly, you can consider how to prepare for difficult situations. And of course you can consider how to avert difficult situations. So all this has come from the energy that Jupiter turns direct on the 10th of July. So get in touch with me for an astrology reading, or to enrol on one of my courses, or to have like a future life progression with Maggie Pashley. Thank you.